I think we have to sort of also demand from our designers that they give us these sizes. I always wanted to start I'm too lazy, but I wanted to start a movement where we said, we are not going to shop, we're not going to buy anything from a brand that does not offer things in our size. So even whether it's Gucci or Louis Vuitton, if they don't make anything in my size, I shouldn't buy the shoes, I shouldn't buy the handbag, I shouldn't buy the fragrance, I shouldn't buy anything, because we
That's
need
interesting,
to be
because that's exactly how we interact with.
Totally. And the thing is, exactly, we'll take anything. We'll take any crumbs that are given to us, and I think we should not.
That is terrible, but it's true.
No, it's true. It's true. It's a very twisted, we need to get a therapist in here to talk to us all about
We have a couch.
That. Exactly.
Welcome to Clothing Culture, a fashion industry podcast at the intersection of technology and innovation. I'm Emily Lane.
And I'm Bret Schnitker. We speak with experts and disruptors who are moving the industry forward and discuss solutions to real industry challenges.
Clothing Culture is produced by Stars Design Group, a global design and production house with more than 30 years of experience. Welcome back to another episode of Clothing Culture. Today, once again, we find ourselves in the MasterCard Tech Hub, which is a wonderful place to be. And we've had the opportunity to meet a wonderful icon in the industry, Mickey Boardman, as we both were celebrating the Ukrainian designers. And so, Mickey, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we thought, we could be very serious and talk about all kinds of things that have centered around your career. But we thought, you know what, let's actually start where you got your start. Mm-hmm. I think we want to ask Mr. Mickey some questions.
Okay.
These are really critical. I have this very good friend that might be in the room that has this terrible fashion hoarding habit. She can't throw anything away. She talks about clothing being still in her closet from her sophomore year. What the hell can I do, Mickey?
Well, let me just tell you, very often I regret the things I didn't give away.
That's not
or
helping.
Get rid of.
That's not helping.
Yes, exactly.
But the thing is, I think people think fashion is very frivolous or not very important, but really our clothes say who we are. They tell the world who we are, who we think we are, who we hope to be. So in a way, we're curating a collection. The way a museum curates a collection of art, we curate our closets, those of us who are interested in fashion. So it can be very hard to get rid of things. And I think, Marie Kondo, whom I've never really watched her show, but I know she has the whole...
Brings people joy.
She brings people, it sparks joy. I believe that if there's something in your closet that you really love that's really important to you, you should keep it. But at the same time, you need to remind yourself, and I've watched programs about hoarders because I have hoarding tendencies, as you can imagine myself. And the problem is I would pendulum swing. I would save everything, and then the closets would be exploding, so I'd get rid of things on a whim and then regret things. So I think you need to approach things calmly and saying, you're going to keep what you really love, but if you don't really love it, you can get rid of it. And also...
So you're suggesting a Xanax and trash bags.
Exactly. No, possibly, but also remind yourself that you can keep the memory that goes with the clothes without actually having the clothes. The same way we can have wonderful memories of people without having them actually in our lives because maybe they were holding us back, so we got to kick them to the curb. So, and I like to think of it also, something that really helped me is I do a charity sale every year, and we sell clothing to raise money to build schools, clinics, and women's centers in India. So that's really for a good cause. So I think to myself, is it more important for me to keep this old Versace t-shirt that's always been too small, that I've never worn, or I can sell it for a good cause? So then, P.S., I still kept it, but I've gotten rid of a lot of other things. But, so yes.
That does make that a lot easier. So with a little champagne, perhaps I can be brave.
Because if you approach it like, oh no, I'm a bad person, it's bad that I keep all these clothes.
Right.
It's not going to feel like a pleasant experience. But if you approach it knowing that you can keep what you really want to keep, but knowing that it would be good for you and helpful to get rid of some things. And also it gives things another life. I've also had periods in my life loved to give clothes away. Like I would be wearing a fun sweater and someone would say, oh, I love that sweater. I'd say, here, take it. Thinking that sort of the universe, sort of if you push something away, something new is going to come in its place. So I think if you think about it that way as
That's
well.
almost a guarantee for her.
That's what?
That's almost a guarantee for her. Yeah.
Great advice.
Thank
okay,
you.
So maybe you can help a dear friend of mine who may or may not be in the room, but is challenged with wardrobe limitations. You talk about curating looks to tell stories about who you are and how you feel. This person is always in black and limits himself and his style to the black tee, the black sweater. I'm feeling like it might be time to expand beyond the black.
Yeah. Well, black is a uniform, I mean, especially in fashion. And it's funny because I've my whole life been a clown. I love bright colors, sparkles. The more crazy, the better. And I never understood people who wore all black. And then one day I got a package from Lacoste. And at the time, I didn't own any Lacoste shirts, but they sent me a black polo shirt. And I thought, that's a strange thing to send me, as I'm so clowny. But I wore it and I thought, God, this is fabulous. Black, I sort of get it. And it was around the time that our previous president was elected, and it was a bit of a dark time. So then I found myself wearing nothing but black, and I only felt comfortable in black. And now it's very flattering. It's very slenderizing. It's very... It just makes you feel strong and comfortable, and in a weird way, maybe not unobtrusive, but it sort of makes you feel like you're blending in a way if you like that. So, but I think maybe we need to challenge your friend, wherever he or she is, to maybe there's a reward in it somehow. Like if you can move beyond the black, you get a free trip to Tahiti. I don't know what it is. We'll have to find something.
Good. I'm moving beyond
because there
black.
is magic beyond. Maybe even trying like dark gray. Or I also love navy blue. I've always said if there was a cult that dressed
That is
only
the
in,
other black.
Yes, if there was
You're
a cult that only dressed in navy blue, I would join.
You
I
would
wouldn't
join.
care about the beliefs of it because I think navy blue is so chic and looks so great on everybody.
I think, we both love fashion. I've been in this space for a long time. You have 10 times over, but I always find it limiting. You always talk about the limitation of fashion. I feel like I'm always on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
There's, my expression of fashion is a great pair of shoes or maybe a pair of pants, but on tops, anything fashionable becomes really challenging.
Well,
Yeah.
because you're a bigger man in a
Yeah.
smaller world.
Yeah.
So.
True.
Well, that's the irony of fashion. I mean, and so many of us, here we are, 3 fashion lovers. We're all very different. But at the same time, the fashion world can be so unwelcoming and so exclusive in a bad way. That's always been something that's hard for me to come to terms with because I do love fashion, but everything from when you go to a fashion show, the seats are too small for anyone with a normal butt, let alone a large one. And in the stores, sell clothes everything is geared for 14-year-old models from Ukraine, speaking of Ukraine. And the average woman now, I learned today from the head of the panel that we did earlier, that the average woman now is a size 20 in the United States. It used to be a size 16 before the pandemic.
Right.
You can't find a size 20 in anything. I mean, there is a wonderful website called, what is it called? 13 Honoré, or 11 Honoré, I take it back. 11 Honoré, and they do collaborations with designers that go up to usually size 22. But it's crazy that people can't find clothes in their sizes. It's ridiculous. It's bad business. It's not just it's just not rude. It's terrible business. And I think that hopefully designers are coming around to that. But something that was an important moment for me is I shop a lot at a store in Chicago called Ikram. And it's Ikram Goldman, who used to style Mrs. Obama. She has an incredible store, incredible taste. Sells everything from Gucci to Alaya to J.W. Anderson, Loewe, et cetera. And I was shopping there once, and it's women's clothes, first of all, which I love to wear women's clothes. I don't know about you, if you could.
Well, I'm going to Tahiti. I'll wear
There
it.
you go. Hello. You'll wear like a string bikini on the bottom.
Yeah.
But so she was saying, is there anything that you'd like or that you'd like to take a look at? And I said, these are women's clothes, and they really only go up to size 8. There's no way I could even think about any of these clothes. And she said, pick what you like. And I picked a sparkle top from Proenza Schooler. This was like 10 or 15 years ago. And a good tailor can make anything fit any person. They sometimes said they put panels in the side of things for me. They get extra fabric from the designer to sort of make extra pieces. And, not everyone has a wonderful tailor or a store that can do, has that knowledge. But it has really freed me up to realize that and nothing is off limits with the right support system and support undergarments.
You just answered my question, is how can you express yourself in a space that doesn't fit?
Yeah.
So finding a good tailor is a great point of advice. What are some other tips?
Well, vintage is also really great too. And the thing is, the thing about people who can't just go shop off the rack. We have to be more creative. And that's actually, to me, where the magic of fashion is. It's easy to go to Prada and find something fabulous and wear look 14
Except for
head
us.
to toe. Except for us. So we have to, shop vintage, adapt things. I have a Comme des Garçons. I have a jacket from Comme des Garçons that actually is a dress, but they opened up the front of it for me so I can wear it as a jacket. It doesn't button, but so that way, like if it's open in the front, it doesn't matter if I've gained 20 pounds during the pandemic or not. So I think we just have to be super creative. And luckily we are. Obviously, we all look great. So, although I feel a little bit underdressed next to this group today.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think you just have to really sort of be creative and like I love an elastic waist, certainly on anything.
Who doesn't?
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. I love a comfortable shoe. And you just have to, for me, the thing about fashion is you should be, like, I know that you looked at that dress and you thought, I'm so excited to put on this dress. And if you get dressed in the morning and you're not excited about what you're wearing, you should go back to the closet and start over. And whether that's something that's all black or something that's sexy or something that's crazy, it should really be expressing who you are and it should make you excited to wear it. And if you're not excited, something's wrong.
I love that idea of exploring beyond how the garment maybe was originally presented.
Totally.
Just invent it, make it your own.
Totally. And the thing is, it's funny because being a fashion person, people love to ask me, what are the trends? What are the trends? I hate the trends. I don't know what the trends are and I don't care what the trends are. I like sparkle. You like black.
Yeah.
You like sexy or whatever it is. And I love a designer who has a really strong point of view, even if it's not my point of view. Like someone like Rick Owens, who I think of as a vampire, like a sexy vampire. My fashion is never sexy. I'm a sexual person, but it's not, for me, it's not about showing skin or projecting sex. I'm about projecting fun and 1960s Las Vegas style variety show glamour. I'm like the Supremes at the Frontier Hotel in 1969. I'm the Carol Burnett show. I'm Sonny and Cher. So, but...
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
I open my closet and I think, I cannot believe I have so much fun, fabulous stuff in my closet. And I also look at it in the long game where, I buy a few designer things every season, but I often buy things on sale or I get things vintage or I get things gifted to me. So after, you can't just overnight have the wardrobe of your dreams. It's something you, as we've mentioned, you curate, you build. And now after 30 years of being a fashion addict, I have more things than I can even wear. So, and
Any
it
hope
doesn't
for
change.
inclusivity today? Any designers or brands that you think are actually embracing that?
Absolutely. I think there are lots of brands. Let me try to think of, as I said, I mentioned 11 Honore. It works with a bunch of different brands. Diane von Furstenberg, someone knew who they work with, Stella McCartney. And there are certain other brands that sort of looser. Men's clothes, are baggier that's really more for women than for men who are looking for larger sizes. But I think we have to sort of also demand from our designers that they give us these sizes. I always wanted to start I'm too lazy, but I wanted to start a movement where we said, we are not going to shop. We're not going to buy anything from a brand that does not offer things in our size. So even whether it's Gucci or Louis Vuitton, if they don't make anything in my size, I shouldn't buy the shoes. I shouldn't buy the handbag. I shouldn't buy the fragrance. I shouldn't buy anything because we
That's
need to be
interesting because
addressed.
that's exactly how we interact with them.
Totally. And the thing is, we'll take anything. We'll take any crumbs that are given to us. And I think we should not.
That is terrible, but it's true.
No, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's a very twisted. We need to get a therapist in here to talk to us all
We have a
about
couch.
that. Exactly. Make some room. But so I think that would be actually a really good idea to make these brands understand that and see that. So.
So going from being a full-time editor and provocateur of Paper Magazine, now in a transition to a new era, how are you getting your kind of creative, mischievous fix?
Well, travel for me has always been a good way to get inspired. And when I was in Kyiv in October, I was super duper inspired by that because
Keenan said you guys had a great time.
We had
It's just
the best
amazing.
time.
Yeah.
And it happened to be my birthday while we were there, so that was incredible. And I'm of Polish descent, so I feel like the Ukrainians are my cousins, And I just feel really at home in that part of the world. And to see young, interesting people do incredible things like the designers we saw today, all are incredible, all so inspiring, all world class. And there's such a history and tradition of craft and artisans doing things and in fashion and making clothes. So that really got my juices going. And I go to India a lot. I'm happy to travel anywhere. If you said today, let's go to the airport, we're going to Paducah, Kentucky, I'd say, let's do it. Let's find out what the cute things in Paducah are. And there's always something that can inspire you that way. And so I always come back rejuvenated and energized from a trip, even if it's a busy work trip or something that, vacation that I'm very active on. I come back rejuvenated and excited with lots
I always
of
say I'm
memories.
more excited when I'm wheels up out of the U.S. And I'm an
Totally.
Indiophile. I've been in India 30 years. I love
it.
everything about the country.
Yeah.
How did you end up falling in love with India? Because a lot of people,
It's not for
obviously,
everybody.
It's not for everybody.
It's certainly for me. It's
Yeah.
funny because, as I said, I love to travel, and I'm not one of those people. The strange thing is the most important places in my life, New York and India, were not places that I was eager to go to. Like I was not.
Me neither, to begin with. Sure.
Yeah, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and I loved Chicago. I loved cities, but I was happy to go anywhere. I never thought like, God, I got to get out of here. I got to get to New York City. But I ended up coming here to go to Parsons and fell in love with it, and now I've been here for over 30 years. With India, I'll go if you have a business class ticket for me, I'll go anywhere. And I got invited to Fashion Week in India in 2007 in Bombay, in Mumbai, but I call it Bombay.
Yeah, me too.
A lot
Hard
of
to
people there
switch.
do. The big newspaper's the Bombay
Yes,
Times, so a
you're
lot
right.
of people there call it Bombay. And so I went, I thought, oh, this will be interesting. And I really, even though I like to think of myself as a pretty open-minded, well-educated, sophisticated person, you sort of think of India and you think, oh, it's just poverty. Or you think, oh, it's just, you don't really have an idea of what it is. You just think it's messy chaos,
Yeah.
which it is on a level. So anyway, so I got off the plane, and literally the minute I stepped off the plane, I said, baby's home. I just felt something in the air. There was
Yeah,
just
me
something
too.
about it. And just at that time, again, that was like 2007. Things have changed a lot since then, although
And
I can
continue to
imagine.
change.
Yeah, always. And so Bombay now feels and it's very much like New York to me, Bombay, the energy, and it's the hub for magazines and movies and finance and things like that. So I just completely fell in love with it. And I'd always been very popular with South Asian men, wherever in America as well. And that is certainly the case there. So I felt like David Hasselhoff in Germany, you got to go where the audience wants you. And there's just everything about it is total chaos. It makes Times Square on New Year's Eve look like Hooterville.
I had
But
a friend that traveled with
it's-
me and said it's
yeah.
chaotic migration, literally.
Totally. But magic in every way. The things
is.
you see, a family of 5 rolling by on a motorcycle,
my
teeny
gosh.
little matchbox car type taxis with like 25 cases of mangoes on top. I mean, it's just,
I was there when the gods drank milk. Did you hear that story?
no.
Yeah, I was traveling with some friends. We were in Nepal, and we'd spent a weekend, jumped off Himalayas on a mountain, and came back into the city, and a Sikh guard picks us up, and he says, have you heard? The gods are drinking milk. And we're thinking, okay, what's going on? And what had happened is there was a guy in Mumbai every night, 3 o'clock in the morning, Hindu high holy time, offered milk to Shiva, ceremoniously set the milk down. That night, he puts the milk up to Shiva's lips, and the milk disappears into the lips.
Wow.
He brings over a priest, and he's like, showed him, and it disappeared. By the time we'd gotten back into Delhi, the entire milk supply of Delhi was gone and vanished into stone statues for 24 hours, and after 24 hours, never happened again.
Wow.
I literally waited in line, went to a temple, and did it myself, and it was...
That's
I walked
amazing.
away shaking. I mean,
Yeah.
you see things in India
Totally.
that
you
you never
wouldn't
see
believe
anywhere
and
else.
that you can't explain. It's totally maddening and totally magic. And that's the combination I like.
too,
That's
I love
exactly
that.
the whole, 90% of the middle of life I'm not interested in. I want the extremes. And that's what you get in India.
You definitely do. I remember a group coming in, and they're like, when are they going to become civilized? When are they going to become like us? I said, oh, you're wrong. They're our future, not our
Exactly.
past.
They're the civilized ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I think just being in a place, the experience of living in New York, being from somewhere else, there's nothing like feeling like you fit in, because New York was the first place, really, one of the first places where I felt like, wow, I am right, I belong here, as opposed to being like, everybody else is different, so something must be wrong with me.
Right.
But and I feel that in India as
too.
well.
Gracious
Even though
people.
obviously we stick out in India.
We
but I mean,
definitely do.
yeah.
India and China.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a movie of me breaking a building in China.
I love it.
Yeah.
You have a project that's near and dear to your heart in India.
Yeah. I work with a charity called Chitta, which is Sanskrit for illuminated. And it's sort of like aloha. It means a million different things. But and it's a friend of mine, Michael Daube, started it, who traveled to India. His life could be a 10-episode podcast. He's so fascinating. But he's an artist who traveled to India in the 80s, ended up stumbling on to meeting some kids on the street who were begging, went with them to the place where they get lunch every day. Thought, wow, this is an amazing operation. They take street kids, give them lunch, take care of them. And it was run by nuns, and he said to the nuns, "This is so interesting. Can I be a volunteer?" And they said, "Well, we'll take you to our boss." They go into a little room with sort of one little table, a bare light bulb on a string, and they said, "Oh, this is our boss, Mother Teresa." I mean, he had never even heard of Mother Teresa, which is crazy to think about in retrospect. And so he was a volunteer with her for a few months, came back to New York, found a painting in the garbage, painting in the garbage that turned out to be a David Hockney painting of Ossie Clark.
Oh my gosh.
Sold it for $18,000, took the money to Mother Teresa and said, "What should I do?" She said, "Build a hospital in Orissa," which is the state below West Bengal, which is where Calcutta is. One of the sort of the most undeveloped
It is.
tribal kind of states in India. So he built a hospital with $18,000 there. And in the decades since then, he's built other clinics, hospitals, and women's centers in India and Nepal. And I do this charity sale, as I mentioned, and I had started doing it just because I needed to clean out some of the things in my house. And one of my best friends owns the store Screaming Mimi's, a legendary vintage store, which is on 14th Street now, but back in the day it was on Lafayette Street. And I had given literally 20 garbage bags of things to Housing Works, who I do a lot of work with also. And they have thrift stores, and all the proceeds go to support people, homeless people living with AIDS and HIV. So they had enough sparkle tops for me. So I called Screaming Mimi's and I said, "Laura, I have like 10 garbage bags of clothes. Do you please take them? Can I just drop them off? You could sell them, do whatever you want with them. Some of them are new with tags. Some of them are from your store." And she said, "Well, why don't we do a charity sale and you pick a charity and we'll give the money to them." So being a shopaholic, I learned quickly that you can get the thrill that you get from buying, you could also get from selling. And it's actually a deeper thrill. It's a deeper thrill to find a good home for something you really love. It's sort of like being a parent, I suppose, on a certain level.
Yes.
You're happier for your child's success. I'm happier for that Saint Laurent handbag that I never used to go to like a good home and make money to build a school. So anyway, all the money goes to Chitta. And our latest project was we built a girls' school in Jaisalmer near the Pakistan border. And it's an area
The
where—
desert state.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's the Golden City. I mean, hello.
Beautiful.
We're going to the Golden City because
Yeah.
all the buildings there are made of this local stone that shines golden in the desert sun. So it's an incredible building. It was on the cover of Architectural Digest India, designed by a woman named Diana Kellogg, who's an architect from America. And it's gotten a lot of great attention. And it's, in a place where almost none of the girl children are sent to school, somehow Michael, who's spent decades there getting to know people and becoming respected, has been able to convince people to send their daughters to school. So it's really making an incredible change. And it's amazing to me that, I'm not a doctor. I am not a builder who can build a school, but I can get clothes from designers to sell to help pay for the school. So I feel like if we all just take our natural skills or what we're good at, and that could be anything, we can make the world a much, much, much better place. So, and it helps to me, that kind of thing helps me feel fulfilled and nourish my soul in a way, in a business that we all love, but at the same time there are times when I look around and I think this is beyond an SNL skit. It's so ridiculous and so insane.
You're right.
Yeah.
I love that idea of taking your natural skills and leveraging it into the spirit of generosity, that
Totally.
you can create great impact, even if your greatest skill is that you look amazing.
Totally.
Or that
Absolutely.
you're great at curating sparkles.
Absolutely. Or a lot of people and you spread the word. And I have a friend whose husband loves sports and he helps fund an intramural basketball team for at-risk youth. I mean, so I'm not, it's all sort of— someone once said to me, "Well, when are you going to do a fundraiser for schools in America?" And I said, "Well, as soon as you set it up, I'll be the co-host. I'll work the door."
That's a great
And it's
answer.
we have to sort of do what what we're called to do on a certain level. And anytime a friend is working on anything that's important to them and personal to them, I'm happy to support and do whatever I can, help them get free venues. Again, I can help get free venues because I know people. I can get free clothes. I don't have the big money that like the big donors have, but it's the other things are just as important as the money.
And we are a global community.
Absolutely.
Wherever it is, it needs to be there.
Speaking of a global community, we're meeting directly as a result of you traveling with Keenan, going to Ukraine, becoming inspired by the designers in Kyiv. And of course, we've met during New York Fashion Week in celebration of those designers, bringing exposure to the incredible talent that's there. What are some highlights of what you've learned from getting to meet some of these designers? And, what advice would you have as they've had to navigate such extraordinary hardships to try and make it in this very complex space?
Well, first of all, they could give us advice, on how to survive hardship. And I think the whole world has been so inspired by Ukraine because of, who knows if it's a distrust of Russia or just to see how Ukraine has handled this situation. And in a way, they've kind of become surrogates for all of us who believe in freedom and who believe in creativity and who believe in...
Nobody likes a bully.
It's true, absolutely. And and I just think I've been so inspired by these designers. And right before I went to Kyiv, and I had actually been to Ukraine 15 years ago to the Crimea before it was annexed by Russia, and to see the palaces of the Romanovs in the Crimea, which was amazing. And it's, again, a beautiful country.
Bit of gold there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so going to Kyiv, because I'm of Polish descent, again, I feel like that's my part of the world. And there was an article right before we went in the New York Times saying how Kyiv is the new Berlin. How there was a woman, a writer for the New York Times who was living in South Africa, I think at the time, and wanted to travel during the pandemic. And the only place that seemed to have no restrictions was Ukraine. So she went to Kyiv almost by accident and fell in love with it and ended up staying for months. And the first night she ended up at a rave in the forest outside Kyiv. So there's just something about it the same way I said when I stepped off the plane in India, I said, baby's home. There's just something to be there in Kyiv. You just feel the energy and the creativity. It feels like a very young country, a country but with a very rich history and rich culture and just so welcoming and so warm. And I mean, and again, these designers, I've been to Paris, Milan, every fashion capital, and the things that I saw in Kyiv, I was more impressed by than things I see in the other fashion capitals. So it's just an incredible place, and I think everyone I know who's been has been moved and inspired by it. So I think everybody else.
The comments in the room were very, very strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there other places of the world that people should be looking at right now?
Of course. I was just in Malaga, Spain, and they're having a moment because the museum scene there is really incredible. A friend of mine, a photographer, Hubertus Hohenlohe, just had a show at the Fundación Unicaja in Malaga, which is a museum. Unicaja is a bank that has cultural centers in Seville, in Malaga, and in a few other cities in the south of Spain.
You studied in Spain, right?
I did. I did my junior year in Madrid in the 80s, and then I graduated and went and taught English for a year in Spain. So I love Spain. But there's the Thyssen Museum there. There's the Picasso Museum. There's Pompidou Center. I don't know why they've decided to open in Malaga, but there's sort of a lot going on, and the city is really having an amazing moment. Copenhagen I love and is amazing. I haven't been there in a little while, but it was just the 50th anniversary of the Queen, Margareta, whose the celebrations were reduced a little because of the death of the Queen of England. But I love Africa. I went to Lagos Fashion Week. I loved it. It felt like India. It felt like the future. So I really loved that. There are so many places everywhere that are amazing. Mexico is incredible. I think every country, if you give it a chance, there are amazing things going on there.
There's 135 fashion weeks or something going on around the world. I think, the globalization of fashion is what most excites me. You look at the big runway shows and it's so many times it's almost like you've been there, done that. But you look at some of these people forged by what's happening and it's just remarkable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, a very inspirational time here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us
today,
Mr.
having me.
Mickey. It's been a joy to have a conversation with you. And of course, thank you for the expert advice.
My pleasure. For the trip to Tahiti.
Exactly. I look forward to updates from both of your friends on their issues they're struggling with.
Well, thank you again. And don't forget to subscribe to stay apprised of upcoming episodes of Clothing Culture.